Have you ever felt like you're speaking a language that no one else around you seems to understand? Do people consistently mistake your deliberate silence for arrogance, or your focused observation for cold judgment? Do you navigate the chaotic currents of the world with an internal compass they can't see, let alone comprehend? This isn't a defect or a flaw in your character. It is a fundamental feature of a mind that operates on an entirely different, more profound frequency. Welcome to the Sigma Male community. Today we are not here to offer simple answers or platitudes. We are here to dissect the very architecture of the Sigma psyche, to explore the unseen fortress of the mind that makes the Sigma male one of the most misunderstood figures in the modern landscape. We will delve into the deep, stoic blueprint that governs his actions, his silence, and his unwavering path, revealing why his inner world remains an enigma to the masses who are conditioned to see life only at its most superficial level. 1. The Profound Camouflage. The secrets a Sigma male holds are not the kind you would find in a confessional booth or a therapy session. They aren't buried traumas or scandalous affairs waiting to be unearthed for dramatic effect. Instead, his secrets are the revolutionary insights he has earned in the stark, illuminating laboratory of silence. Think of it less as hidden pain and more as an unseen operating system, a complex and highly refined code that dictates his every move. These are the philosophical pivots he made in solitude, the moral frameworks he forged while others were sleeping, the quiet, unshakable convictions that allow him to bend his reality to his will. They remain hidden not out of shame or fear but for a much simpler reason. The average person would never even think to ask the right questions. The world seeks confessions of weakness, assuming vulnerability must be loud and messy. The Sigma, however, guards the blueprints to his strength. This profound camouflage is a natural consequence of his inner world's design. His deepest, most defining truths are not locked behind a door you can't pick. They are entire, sprawling wings of the mansion you never knew existed in the first place. You walk the familiar halls of social interaction, assuming you see the whole structure, while he operates from a command center hidden in plain sight, obscured by your own assumptions. His most powerful ideas, his core principles, his grand strategies, they all function entirely off the radar of a society that equates noise with substance and broadcasting with authenticity. What defines him most profoundly is not what he hides from you, but what you lack the perception to even look for. It is the ultimate camouflage, a depth so complete that it appears, to the uninitiated, as a simple, uninteresting surface. 2. The internal chess Grandmaster. For the Sigma male, a conversation is rarely a collaborative brainstorming session. It is more often the endgame of a tournament that has already been played to completion within his own mind. While you are still arranging your pieces on the board, formulating your opening arguments, he has already run a dozen simulations. He has dissected your likely motives, anticipated your counterarguments, stress-tested your logic, and arrived at the most rational conclusion in the deafening silence before a single word was spoken. That brief, sometimes terse reply you receive is not a sign of dismissal or disinterest. It is the checkmate move, delivered with quiet finality after an exhaustive internal game. He does not speak to explore possibilities with you. He speaks to conclude the matter, having already navigated the entire labyrinth of thought on his own. This staggering mental velocity can be easily mistaken for arrogance, but it is nothing of the sort. It is a commitment to ruthless efficiency, a core tenet of a mind that values clarity over chatter and truth over tedious performance. You feel left behind because, in a very real psychological sense, he began the race miles ahead of you, having already mapped the entire terrain of human interaction, motivation, and logical progression while you were still tying your shoes. His silence is not an empty void waiting to be filled. It is the resonant echo of a finished mental symphony. It is the quiet hum of a powerful engine that has already processed the data, run the calculations, and determined the optimal outcome, respecting his own mental energy and the objective truth above the need for social pageantry. 3. The Unshakeable internal calibration. Praise and criticism, the two great puppeteers of the social world, are rendered utterly powerless when faced with the Sigma's psyche. To him, your applause and your insults are not fuel or poison. They are merely weather reports. They are external events to be noted, perhaps assessed for any factual data they might contain, but they are ultimately irrelevant to the navigation of his journey. His internal guidance system is not calibrated by the shifting winds of public opinion, but by the fixed stars of his own principles and his direct experience of reality. Your applause does not inflate his ego because his sense of worth was never placed in your hands. Your insults do not deflate his spirit because he long ago stopped seeking your permission to be who he is. His validation is an internal process. This state is not one of indifference but one of complete sovereignty. His sense of self was not assembled in the noisy, chaotic factory of external validation, where parts are slapped together based on trends and social rewards. It was forged in the silent, solitary crucible of difficult decisions, uncelebrated trials, and personal accountability. He moves according to an inner compass calibrated against objective truth and personal integrity, not the fleeting roar of the crowd. This is why any attempt to flatter him into compliance, shame him into submission, or manipulate him with social pressure inevitably crashes against an impervious core of self-possession. He understands in a way few ever will, that seeking approval is a form of bondage, and he has committed his life to the path of freedom. 4. The forensic social anthropologist. Do not make the mistake of thinking the Sigma has checked out of society. On the contrary, he has embedded himself within it as its most astute, detached, and insightful observer. Where you see a casual party, he sees a living behavioral laboratory ripe with data. Where you hear meaningless small talk and pleasantries, he is actively decoding the subtle power dynamics, the suppressed anxieties, and the quiet desperation simmering just beneath the surface of curated smiles. He will attend the gathering, he will participate in the conversation, he might even appear to blend in seamlessly. But his primary purpose is not belonging, it is dissection. He is there to map the unspoken rules, to document the silent, tragic trades of authenticity for acceptance, and to understand the intricate dance of ego, fear, and desire that governs human behavior. To the Sigma, you are not just a person he is interacting with, you are a rich data set in his ongoing, lifelong study of the human condition. Proximity to him grants you access to his field of observation, but it does not automatically grant you access to his inner circle. He navigates the complex social matrix not by wearing its uniform or blindly following its rules, but by understanding its underlying code. He sees the strings that move the puppets, and by seeing them he ensures they are never attached to him. This forensic analysis isn't born from a place of malice or superiority. It's a survival mechanism for a mind that craves understanding and refuses to be swept away by the predictable, often irrational tides of groupthink. 5. The uncompromising authenticity enforcer. The scent of fake harmony is a powerful repellent to the Sigma male. He doesn't just see the social mask that people wear, he feels the profound, soul-crushing cost of wearing it. He perceives the quiet erosion of the self that is required to maintain a facade of agreeable pretense. That forced laughter at a joke that wasn't funny, that performative nod to a hollow sentiment, that silent agreement bought with the currency of self-betrayal. To him, this is not social grace. It is a form of spiritual bankruptcy, a slow suicide of the soul, and he refuses to participate in the transaction. He will not offer a hollow compliment, and he will not soften his truth simply to create a more frictionless interaction. This raw, unyielding commitment to authenticity is frequently mislabeled by the outside world as coldness, arrogance, or being needlessly difficult. It is none of those things. It is the steadfast refusal to pay the exorbitant price of counterfeit connection. The temporary comfort of blending in is, in his estimation, not worth the long-term cost of betraying his own perceptions and principles. True belonging, the only kind he values, cannot be purchased with the debased currency of pretense. He would rather stand alone in his truth than be embraced by a crowd for a version of himself that doesn't actually exist. This isn't an attack on others, it is the ultimate defense of his own integrity. Let's get real for a moment. As you're sitting here, listening to this on the Sigma Male Community channel, you know exactly where you stand. There are two possibilities. Either this is resonating like a deep, powerful bell has been struck within your core, a quiet, powerful confirmation of the operating system you have always known you possessed, or it's beginning to prick a nerve, challenging the comfortable social scripts you have accepted as reality. If it is the former, then you recognize the immense discipline, the constant observation, and the profound cost required to maintain that internal fortress. You know this path is not an easy one. But if it's the latter, if this feels unsettling, then you must ask yourself a hard question. Where have you traded your depth for digestibility? At what point did you choose the manufactured comfort of the herd over the sharp, sometimes isolating, clarity of your own vision? This isn't about applying a label to yourself. It's about forcing you to recognize the mechanisms of authenticity versus performance that are constantly at war within yourself. Take a moment and audit that. Now, 6. The strategic shadow. The silence of a Sigma is not a passive shield born of shyness or uncertainty. It is a calculated, strategic void. He withholds information not from a fear of exposure, but as a method to control the psychological terrain of an interaction. Every unanswered question, every piece of personal history strategically omitted, serves to amplify his presence through his very absence. He understands a fundamental law of human psychology. What remains unknown exerts a powerful gravitational pull on the minds of others. This mystery is not a superficial pose he adopts for effect. It is a direct application of power. It forces others to project their own assumptions, to speculate, to reveal their own intentions and anxieties as they try to fill in the blanks he has deliberately left empty. While the rest of the world rushes to overshare, broadcasting every thought and feeling in a desperate bid to feel seen and connected, the Sigma leverages the power of selective revelation to maintain his autonomy and influence. He provides just enough information to engage in intrigue, but never enough to be fully mapped, predicted, or manipulated. He creates an enigma that others feel compelled to chase, and from his detached vantage point he calmly observes the chase itself, gathering even more data about the people around him. His silence is not empty, it's a chess move. It's a carefully crafted space that allows him to observe, assess, and act from a position of unassailable strength and strategic advantage. 7. The emotion as intel operative. Forget the common advice to follow your heart. The Sigma male does not follow his emotions, he interrogates them. To him, feelings are not infallible commands that must be obeyed without question. They are encrypted signals from his subconscious, raw intelligence that demands rigorous decryption before any action is taken. A sudden spike of anger is not a fuse to be lit, but incoming data that points to a transgressed boundary, a hidden manipulation attempt, or a flawed premise in his own thinking. A strong sense of attraction is not a cue for blind infatuation, but a complex variable to be assessed for its true source, its long-term compatibility, and the motives of the other person. This is not coldness, it is the highest level of operational intelligence. He deploys a system of relentless inner surveillance, creating a crucial space between the feeling and the reaction. In that space he analyzes the source, the trigger, the context, and the most strategic long-term response. This emotional discipline, a core practice of Stoic thought, renders him nearly immune to the cheap provocations, guilt trips, and superficial charm that ensnare so many others. It doesn't mean he feels less. In fact, he often feels more deeply because he is paying such close attention. But it means his responses are chosen with purpose and clarity, not chained to the raw, unpredictable chaos of pure impulse. He is the calm master of his inner world, not its frantic servant. 8. The architect of self. For most people, their identity is a finished monument, something to be polished and defended at all costs. For the Sigma, his identity is merely scaffolding, a temporary structure that is constantly being inspected, dismantled, and rebuilt to be stronger, more efficient, and more aligned with the truth. His beliefs are not precious family heirlooms to be displayed, they are functional tools in a workshop. The moment a tool ceases to serve the purpose of discovering truth or facilitating growth, it is discarded without sentimentality or nostalgia. He subjects his own most cherished values, his memories, and even his concept of self to brutal, ongoing audits, asking the merciless question, is this still true? Is this still effective? Is this still me? This process of relentless self-interrogation and reinvention can look like instability to an outsider, but it is the highest and most difficult form of integrity. The Sigma fears stagnation and self-deception far more than he fears the discomfort of being wrong. While others cling desperately to a fixed, comfortable self-image, he embraces the controlled demolition required for evolution. You may think you have him figured out, but you have likely only glimpsed the blueprint of the previous iteration. He is not a finished product. He is an architect perpetually at work on his own masterpiece, willing to tear down any wall that stands in the way of a better design. 9. The unapologetic depth. The air of mystery that surrounds a Sigma is not something he actively cultivates. It is the natural byproduct of his refusal to engage with shallowness. He will not shrink his complexity, dilute his thoughts, or perform a simplified version of himself just to fit into your cognitive comfort zone. If the depth of his perspective or the nuance of his arguments unsettles you, his response is not to sand down his own edges to make himself smoother and more palatable. His response is to simply and quietly disengage. This is not an act of arrogance. It is a non-negotiable commitment to the substance of his own being. He has spent a lifetime building that depth, and he will not dismantle it for anyone's convenience. He speaks the language of nuance, paradox, and layered meaning with native fluency and feels no obligation to translate himself into simplistic black-and-white soundbites for an audience that demands easy answers. For a genuine connection to be formed, it must meet him at his level of depth. He will not and cannot descend into the shallows of superficial validation. He operates on the profound understanding that it is far better to be profoundly misunderstood by the many for who you truly are, than to be superficially validated by them for a performance of someone you are not. His presence is a silent invitation to think deeper, and he is perfectly content if most people decline to accept it. 10. The Vulnerability Strategist. Never mistake the Sigma's emotional reserve for an emotional absence. He feels with an intensity that would likely overwhelm a less disciplined mind, but his vulnerability is not a leaky faucet left running for the world to see. It is a precision instrument, a highly specialized tool that is deployed with conscious intent and strategic purpose. If and when he chooses to share a piece of his inner world, it is never a careless act. It is a deliberate move designed to achieve a specific outcome, to test the mettle and trustworthiness of another person, to clarify a complex dynamic, to anchor a difficult truth, or, most strategically, to observe your reaction when presented with genuine, unfiltered reality. He has witnessed time and time again how emotions are weaponized in the social arena, used for leverage, for manufacturing guilt, for emotional blackmail, and for control. As a result, his inner world is treated as classified information, accessible only to those with the highest security clearance. Access is not earned through mere time or proximity, it is granted only when he deems it strategically relevant and safe. He does not offer his vulnerability as a cheap offering for social bonding. He utilizes it as a powerful tool for understanding the character of others. If you demand emotional access on your terms, you will be met not with openness, but with reinforced, impenetrable silence. 11. The Human Pattern Recognition Engine. The moment you begin to engage with a Sigma male, you unknowingly step onto an analyst's slide to be placed under a microscope. He is not just passively listening to the words you are saying. His mind is a powerful engine, actively cross-referencing your every micro-expression, your subtle tonal shifts, your logical contradictions, and your behavioral tics against a vast, internal database of human behavior he has been compiling his entire life. That nervous pause you took before answering a direct question, the subtle name drop you used to seek status, the defensiveness you masked with a forced joke, none of it goes unnoticed. It is all cataloged, tagged, and analyzed in real time. He is building a detailed psychological profile as you speak, not out of malice or a desire to harm, but out of a fundamental need to understand your operating system, your reliability, and your hidden drivers. This forensic level of attention is why interactions with him can feel so unnervingly transparent. You often walk away with the strange and unsettling feeling of being subtly exposed, because while you were performing your socially accepted role, he was quietly and efficiently profiling the real you. He connects the dots that you didn't even know were on the page, seeing the patterns in your behavior that you yourself are blind to. This is his ultimate intellectual advantage. He sees the game, he sees the players, and most importantly, he sees the code that makes them all run. The psyche of the Sigma male is not a riddle designed to frustrate you. It is a fortress, built brick by brick through self-observation, rational thought, and an unwavering commitment to inner sovereignty. It is hard to understand because it was not built to be understood by the outside world, it was built to be mastered from within. The principles we've dissected today, the strategic silence, the emotional discipline, the forensic observation, are not mere personality quirks. They are the tools of a modern-day stoic, the weapons of a man who refuses to be a passive participant in his own life and instead chooses to be its architect. This is not the easy path. It is the path of awareness, of integrity, of power. Take one insight from this video, just one, and let it settle in your mind. Observe it in your own life this week. If this exploration resonated with you on a deep level, let us know in the comments which point hit the hardest. Your insights are not just comments, they are contributions that forge the strength of this entire community. Give this video a like to signal that this kind of deep, unflinching analysis for men is desperately needed. Share it with another man you know who is walking this path, perhaps in silence, so he knows he is not alone. And if you have not yet joined our ranks, then subscribe to the Sigma Male community and, crucially, ring that notification bell. We are more than a channel. We are a necessary resource, a modern forge for men who are committed to growth, independence, and excellence. Do not miss the tools we will share next. Stay vigilant, stay sovereign, and continue to build the man you were always meant to be.